Hello, 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 hello. Good afternoon, good evening to everybody. Everybody. This is Aurelia Davis, the educator's educator, coming to you on a Monday afternoon just talk about a lot of things, talk about some interesting things pertaining to teachers. But first, I would like to announce that I will have a booth at the Illinois Pre-Kindergarten Conference that's going to be held in Schaumburg on March 1st through the 3rd this week. And my booth is 424. So if you've always wanted to meet me beyond the beyond the computer, that's where I'll be, booth 424. Come by if you have the opportunity to attend this conference. I would really love to meet as many of my friends that I've been able to make friends with or become acquainted with over the years. And that's the kindergarten conference, preschool kindergarten conference that will be held in Schaumburg at the Renaissance Hotel, March 1st through the 3rd. And I'll be at booth 424. And the way I was looking at it, they're going to have all kinds of interesting workshops for teachers and parents and so on and so forth. So I'm sure it would be something that you would really, really, really enjoy. On last week, what I did is I was talking about if I went back into the classroom, what would it look like? And I want to talk about that just a little bit more because I know I have to realize that what I used to do and back in when I was in class, I can no longer do. Things have changed, classrooms have changed, schools have changed, um, administrators have changed, the whole system has changed. The whole system has changed. And because of that change, you as an educator, you have to prepare yourself so what you have been used to no longer exists. And you just have to embrace the newness of what's happening in the classroom. For instance, the STEM program, curriculum program, and the STEAM curriculum program are brand new. These are new components to education that will basically place children in K through 12 in the areas of building careers in the areas of science, technology, engineering, and math. And then when you turn it into STEAM, it becomes science, technology, engineering, art, and math. So this is a program that is happening now that I know if I was able to go back into the classroom, I would just embrace it because it's the type of thing where we are guiding our children into careers, whereas before we gave them the components as to what they had to make the decisions themselves as to what they wanted to do, what they wanted to go into. So thinking about it, if I had what I've talked about before is my classroom structure and so on and so forth. I believe that would not change a whole lot. But if the class size, from what I'm understanding, the class size is a lot smaller than what it used to be, which is good. That's a good thing. That's a good thing because what that does is that allows you to break your children into smaller groups, and because they're into smaller groups, you can do more one-on-one teaching. You can do more one-on-one teaching. No longer are the days where you have 28 to 30 children in a classroom. I'm understanding that a lot of the classrooms are very, very small. And then what goes along with the class size is the additional resources that you have. And if you have those teachers, if you have those resources available to you, counselors and social workers and teachers in special ed and so forth, if you have those resources available to you, you need to use them mightily. You need to use them mightily. I'm back. I'm sorry, I'm back. But you would need to use those mightily. And so what ends up happening is that as you use these resources, then you're able to do more with your students, do more with your students. Now, because of computers and technology, the time of writing everything out no longer exists. The time of writing everything out no longer exists. And I would enjoy that because there were times when we had to do reports, and those reports were sometimes 3 and 4 and 5 pages long. So now, if you can connect with a counselor or another teacher or your principal or your vice principal just through your laptop and through technology, it's over, it's done, it's quick, and you're finished with it. So that's good. That saves you time. That saves you time. That saves you time. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't make any notes because you need to be as exact as possible about the information that you are sending to to those individuals. And as far as conducting my classes, I think what I would do as far as conducting classes, of course, you still have the 4 core groups. You have reading, writing. Well, reading and writing goes together, but you have reading, math, social studies, and science. What I found to be very helpful in the past, but what I would even do more so in the future and do now is that hook up with a teacher that loves to teach science. And if you love social studies, then of course you can take those 2 classes and make them into one, or either take 3 classes and make them into one. There will be one social studies teacher for 3 classes. There will be one science teacher for 3 classes. And then even taking it a little bit further as far as math is concerned, you could get to the point where if you have students that if you're teaching 3rd grade, but at the same time, you have children that are beyond third grade math. Check into your building and see exactly what the 4th grade teachers are teaching. And if they have room, if they don't mind having your students come in and start to learn 4th grade math because they have basically gotten beyond 3rd grade math. And this is a good time of the year because the year is almost halfway over. So to just indoctrinate, to just set these children up before they even get to 4th grade and let them be involved in a 4th grade classroom, that would be tremendous. And even within the building, if teachers collaborated more and more, you have to collaborate in order to produce a brilliant child. I'll say that again. You have to collaborate more and more to produce brilliant children. So that group of children that are sitting in front of you now, they don't necessarily belong to you by yourself, but they belong to all the teachers in the building. And if you can hook up with a 5th grade teacher or 6th grade teacher and do some sharing back and forth, you will be surprised how that takes a lot of the pressure off of you as an educator. Not saying that you're not still responsible for what you have to do. But if there are other teachers that are doing something that your children would be interested in, connect with that teacher and see if you can put that child or let those children go into that particular classroom and learn the arts or learn plays or learn harder math, especially if they're brilliant enough to pick it up. It's nothing wrong with them going beyond what they already know. That would be even very, very, very good. What's also important is that as we're teaching nowadays, there's no longer just the what we would call it. No longer does it exist the one teacher, one classroom. One teacher, one classroom. In other words, way back in the days, they used to have 5 and 6 grades in one classroom. But now we as educators, we have to get to the point where we are sharing our students. And if my Johnny can get a lesson better from Mr. Johnson, if he can explain it to him better because he is an expert in math or social studies or science, then I'm going to hook up with Mr. Johnson and see if Johnny can spend a couple of hours in his classroom. Now, of course, you don't do any of this unless you have passed it by your supervisors and your administrators first, for the simple reason that they need to know exactly what's going on. But it's collaboration, collaboration, collaboration. No longer are you by yourself in that one classroom with so many students, and you being responsible for everything that they have to learn. Hook up with some other teachers. As far as what I did find out is that some teachers are already collaborating to the point where Mrs. Jones is going to have she's going to do a beautiful art lesson. She's going to do a beautiful art lesson. And I would like to, can my children come over and watch it? Sure, sure. These experiences where the children are going and seeing other individuals and going into other classrooms is very, very important to them, because first of all, they see that there are other children that are older than they are. And sometimes they get excited about going to another classroom and just learning something that they didn't know before. So those are the things that I would do if I was in the classroom today. I would utilize every resource in that building. I would utilize every resource in that building. And that is something that we did do. We took on the whole building, the whole school, because every child deserved to be taught by every teacher in that building. I'll say that again. Every child in the building deserves to be taught by every teacher in the building. And just to have that many individuals and that many adults pouring into children, if you would be surprised how they just soak it up, and they just basically are able to just get as much that they wouldn't have if they were just sitting in your classroom. So the first thing I would do is I would, by my classroom, if my classroom size is smaller, I would have more opportunities to teach one-on-one. And if that is what's happening in your classroom right now, take advantage of that. Take advantage of that. You have children that need that one-on-one. They need one-on-one more now than they ever did before. With social emotional learning and still children still getting over the pandemic, those children need that one-on-one structure, not structure, but they need that one-on-one individualized learning, so that they can basically, because what you need to do and what you want to do is every child learns differently. But if this is the opportunity where you can take the time to teach Johnny one particular lesson and teach Mary another particular lesson, then you'll be surprised how they would thrive and grow in your building. Flexibility. Flexibility is another thing. It doesn't necessarily have to, you don't necessarily have to follow the clock, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 steps like that. Flexibility is important, because as the children have come out of since they've come out of the pandemic, that structure is it's going to be hard to get it back. It's going to be hard to get it back. So if the children are at a flexible level, you as an educator have to be at a flexible level also. And technology, use it, embrace it. It cuts down teacher hours. It cuts down writing. And I had to take a look at myself and see exactly what I was doing as an educator and what teachers are doing now. And from just talking to a few of my friends, I find that the paper load and the paper workload is not as heavy as it was, because we had to document everything. And then after we documented, we had to send it to 5 or 6 different people. Now you can do an email, shoot one statement or one document to 5 or 6 people at the same time, and you have did the work. You have did the work, especially with those children that are going to need extra resources. So that's what it's about. That's what it's about. I would say flexibility. I would say use all of the resources you can within your building, and to gather as many of your teacher friends and be a part. Let them be a part of the hub of the resources. In other words, the second graders are going to have a. We're going to have, just an example. We're going to have a big math party, and we're going to combine all of the second graders together to do this math party. And so that means the children can basically take out a day and go from classroom to classroom to classroom doing a different math subject. And then of course you bring in the STEM curriculum to let children know that as you're doing math, these are the careers that you can go into at being a mathematician, that type of thing. Science, the same thing. Technology, of course, the arts, all of that. So, teachers, you have more than I had. Okay, I'm just saying it. You had more than what I had when I was coming up being a teacher. You have more resources, smart boards, all of those things. And those things, you take them to the max to utilize them in the manner that you need in order for your children to advance. In order for your children to advance. Good thing about it is that the children are familiar with these with technology too. So that makes it even easier. That makes it even easier. One thing something that they've always wanted us to do, and I would say this was as we were coming out, and I would say like about 2015, 2016, they started going on the premise that teachers should be facilitators in the classroom. Teachers should be facilitators. We came to the point that children did not necessarily learn with someone standing in front of them, reading them, blah, 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 blah. They don't learn like that. They found out they did not learn like that, and that's not a good way of teaching. What we're finding out and what we did is that they found out that if a teacher is a facilitator, that means she has a group of individuals in her classroom, and even though she has a schedule as to what she wants them to do, the children are going from table to table, going from experiment to experiment, going to the library, just filtering throughout the classroom. And that's good learning. That is good learning. You know, the buzzwords and the den of noise and everything, you just have to you have to get used to it. You have to get used to it. And of course, you set up the rules and regulations in order for that to happen. But at the same time, just allowing the children to go from place to place and do what they want to do. And within that classroom, you would be surprised how much they learn, how much they teach each other, which takes some of the pressure off of you. It takes some of the pressure off of you. Yes, it takes some of the pressure off of you. So just think about it. Think about it. But at the same time, if these are some things that you're already doing, take it to the next level. Take it to the next level. Go across the hall to that second grade teacher and say, how can we can collaborate some of our programs and projects together? You know, how can we, because when it came down to it, it's not about your 25 second graders, but it's about the 25 in your room and the 25 across the hall. You know, how can we collaborate and do some collaboration so that our children can learn this particular math lesson that might be very difficult for them? But if we put together our children and put some activities together, you'd be surprised how the kids just take it and run with it. And all you had to do was basically guide them from step to step and let them see what they were going to do. And oh boy, I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen. And it's a beautiful thing to see. It's a beautiful thing to see. In fact, what happens is when children take back on the learning themselves. I think that I'll say that again. It's good when children take back on the learning themselves, because every child is going to learn something differently, how he needs to learn it in order for him to keep it. Okay? In other words, two children sitting beside each other, one is going to learn how to multiply in their own way, and the other child is going to learn how to multiply in their own way. And then if you turn around and give them the same problem, you'll be surprised how they come up with the same answer, but come up with the same answer differently. And when it comes down to it, it's them coming up with the right answer. Coming up with the right answer. And that's something as that we as educators had to get out of, because we wanted children to, or every child to do it the same way to get the right answer. But we're not human. We're not like that. We're all different human beings. We learn differently. We speak differently. We hear things differently. We see things differently. And because of all of those things, every child is going to learn differently. And you, as the educator, your job is to find out how those children learn and allow them, put the platform in place so they can learn that way. And you'll be surprised how they just pick up the ball and go with it. Pick up the ball and go with it. I started doing this a little bit before I retired, and I found it to be a tremendous help to me as an educator, because I would start going into my classrooms, and what I would do is the plan would be in place. I would put out the materials and the instructions for the children, and they would just go with it. And we're talking about third graders. Third graders. So my structured classroom, I would no longer do that. I would no longer have a structured classroom. My classroom would be more of like an open working space for learning, an open working space for learning. And it does not necessarily mean that everybody's doing reading, that everybody's doing math, or everybody's doing social studies, or everybody's doing science. No, I would have a group over here doing reading. I would have another group doing math. I would have another group doing social studies. I would have another group doing science. And then they would rotate. And before you know it, the lessons I was going to teach have been done. We're learned and taught. Sounds good, doesn't it? Yeah, it is good. It is, because once you get to the level where you are not stressing out, and you can just wake up every morning and just feel very elated and excited about going into your classroom, because you know that that particular day is going to be successful. Okay, just like that day is Monday is going to be successful, Tuesday is going to be successful, Wednesday is going to be successful. And if you think back, last Thursday was successful and last Friday was successful. When those children can smile and thank you at the end of the day, oh, Miss Davis, we had a beautiful time. Can we do this again tomorrow? You sure can. You sure can. You sure can do it tomorrow. So I wouldn't structure my classroom as much as I did. I would have my classes, my scheduling would be so flexible that every if you came in on a Monday, you may see something totally different on a Tuesday. And there's nothing wrong with that, because what we're trying to do is get the children to learn by any means necessary. Get them to learn. Get them to learn. And with all of the resources and the technology and everything, you are just basically a facilitator in your classroom. You are a facilitator. At times I would see myself, even though I couldn't do it at the time, just going from group to group, within my classroom, and seeing exactly what they were working on, and then asking them about it. Well, what are you doing? What are you learning? Tell me more about this. Can you write down your answers? Can you write down what you've learned? Any of those things like that? And that's something I didn't have when I was teaching. But that's something that you can do now. You set your classroom up so you can just go from group to group and see exactly what the children are doing. And once you have trained them how to do that, you would be surprised how they easily go into the flow of going. Well, we're going to do this. We're going to be a science group today, Miss Davis. Okay, we do the math lesson over here. Can we do the social studies lesson over here? You sure can. You sure can. What I would probably do is put on some music and let them go. Let them go, because children are a lot smarter now. They come in with a lot of the skills that because of what their environment embraces and what they are used to and what they are getting. So if you can't, you have to use what they have. Meet them where they are. Meet them where they are. And you'll be so surprised how successful they are. Oh boy, I got excited about this today. I got excited about this today. Teachers, there's so many different ways of teaching children today in 2023 that you can't fail. There's so many different ways of teaching children today in 2023. You cannot fail. But one thing about it, you have to take care of yourself. You have to put it in your mind that they can almost do it without you. And that takes the pressure off of you as an educator. Coordinate, coordinate your classroom, facilitate your classroom, set things up so that your children can learn. Set them up so they can self-teach themselves, or they're self-taught. And I used to do that with third graders. Okay, Johnny, you know how to do this math problem. Go over and teach Sally how to do it. And they would go over. They love being teachers. So I would have you have teachers in your room. You have teachers in your room. They're just small. But in the meantime, it'll work. It'll work. Give it a try and see. This is Aurelia Davis, the educator's educator. Just enjoyed talking to you today. Oh my goodness. I bet someone's going to try to get me back in the classroom. I don't know about that. But if I had to do it all over again, I would just be so elated with all of the resources and things that are available. And I have come to realize that the way I taught back in the day no longer exists. How I taught back in the day no longer exists. There's even a different language that teachers are using nowadays. And so God, you have to embrace it. You have to embrace what's happening in 2023 and take it to the next level. And when you take it to the next level, take your students with you. This is Aurelia Davis, the educator's educator. Visit my website, www.aureliadavis.com. If you are going to the fair, if you're going to the Renaissance in Schaumburg this week, from the 1st through the 3rd, I will be at booth 424. Love to meet you. Take care. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.